Tim and I met in an English literature class our junior year of college, and we've been together the 10 years since. While he ended up going into IT, I stayed in the liberal arts track and ended up doing non-profit work after college when I realized I didn't actually want to be a school teacher. Just to say that we always assumed he'd out-earn me by a considerable margin. Though when he made more, I always insisted we split things evenly to avoid potential resentment down the road. I've had sort of a non-linear career path, but ended up switching to the corporate world. To make a long story short, my liberal arts degree and time doing non-profit work gave me a lot of skills that enable me to really excel professionally in some more niche areas. I recently started a new job as a consultant, making way more than I'd ever anticipated. When I got the offer, I told Tim that the pay was amazing, but he didn't ask about the actual amount, and I didn't want to be braggy about it, especially since I was fairly sure it was above his current income. Well, we just put in an application for a new place, and in the process of having to submit our pay stubs, it's become obvious that I make roughly 30% more than he does now. I expected him to think that was cool, since he's a feminist and has always been super supportive of my career. But instead he started to make increasingly harsh jabs about how I cheated the system to get where I am. That no English Lit major makes more than a cybersecurity professional without cheating somehow. His major point is that I got my first job out of nepotism, which set me up to trample more qualified people who didn't have the same advantages. It's true that I got my first post-college job after being referred by a sorority sister, but it was for non-profit work making $22K /year, not exactly at somebody's daddy's firm. He also points out that at my first corporate job, I snagged a big promotion after volunteering to take on starting up the company's diversity /equity / inclusion program, and I'll admit that were I a white man, it's highly unlikely I would have been able to be the face of the eventually high-profile diversity program. Tim also notes that I was awarded a small college scholarship for being a promising female writer, when no such scholarship existed for males. But all that said, I still don't feel like I cheated the system, and it makes me angry to listen to him joke about it. Especially since I grew up blue-collar and worked full-time while going to school full-time to afford my degree. I reached a breaking point yesterday when he made a crack about how the new / first woman on his team is an obvious diversity hire. I told him that his jokes about women cheating the system to get ahead aren't funny or guy talk ribbing, as he says. They make him sound like an insecure little boy. He told me I was being a naive Karen, and we haven't really talked since yesterday. I had been with Carrie for 10 years, best friends since we met at the age of 12 in high school. We had tons of amazing memories. We've traveled to several countries together and made long-term work for 3 years while separated due to studies. Last Thursday I proposed to her in St. Lucia, not in front of anyone, mind you. I wanted it to just be private. She didn't say anything, and I was thinking, oh shit, did I say or do something wrong? She started crying and said she had something to explain to me. She didn't want to marry me because she'd been sleeping with the coworker she said was just a friend for around 3 months. She said she rationalized it was just a thing that would pass, but it's continued, and she said she loves me so much. More than I'll ever understand, that I've helped her so much, and she doesn't even know why she has done this. She said she loved me too much to marry me knowing she'd done what she did. She doesn't love the guy. It was just sex, and she had been trying to stop the affair, but I proposed before that happened, and she said she knew when I was kneeling that she couldn't marry me, not after everything I'd done for her, so she told me. I feel like my whole world has shattered. We had an awkward flight home on Friday evening and haven't spoken since. She has tried calling me, but I haven't answered, and I have until Monday off, so I'm just here. I've barely eaten. I feel like there's a black hole in my stomach draining everything I have mentally. I can't wrap my head around the fact that she was cheating, that she lied, that she hid it from me. My sister apparently had some words for her. I'm trying to pretend I'm okay, but I'm not. Every morning that I've woken up since last week Friday morning has just been bleak. I love her so much, but I've no intentions of getting back together. I don't think I would ever be able to trust her again, much less forgive her, for a very long time. My best friend brought a 6-pack yesterday and we drank in the evening. I cried my eyes out in the shower last night. I never cry, not even when my mom, who I was extremely close to, passed away. But I was sobbing like a child last night, and honestly, I would have loved if my mom had been there to tell me it'd be okay. My sister brought over some breakfast this morning and basically made me eat because she knows I haven't really been eating lately. Zero appetite. I recently got married to Matt. Matt has a stepsister, Tiffany. I have met her less than 10 times in the 5 years I dated Matt, as she doesn't live nearby and is not close to my husband. However, she was invited to our wedding. I should mention that Tiffany is very attractive. She is pretty, with a currently fashionable body type. She also dresses well and spends money on her appearance. This is well known, and even though I've only met her a few times, whenever she is brought up by my in-laws, she always mentioned as being very invested in her image. I don't begrudge her this at all. The ceremony went fine, but afterwards, while my in-laws were congratulating me, my father-in-law commented that I looked beautiful, and in the next breath mentioned Tiffany did, too. His wife caught his eye and shook her head, but I ignored it. When Tiffany came over to say congratulations, she looked stunning. Her dress was beautiful and fitted her perfectly, her hair and makeup looked like they'd been done professionally. And she was wearing a pair of obviously designer shoes. Her outfit was totally appropriate for the event. But I was still weirdly upset by how she looked and immediately felt self-conscious next to her. Even Matt told her she looked great, and they rarely talk. For the rest of the night, every single male guest at the wedding asked about Tiffany, who she was, how I know her, if she was single, etc. By the speeches, I was fed up and almost in tears, and even the best man mentioned her in his speech off the cuff. I let it go, went on my honeymoon, and tried to forget the whole thing. We came back about a week ago, and this past weekend had dinner with my in-laws. Tiffany was visiting, and we learned that she had got engaged. She showed us her comically large ring and said she was planning to have the wedding next year and that it would be a black tie event. Before I could stop myself, I jokingly said that I was pretty sure I'd already been to her wedding. I was the one in the white dress. She asked what I meant, and I thought there was no point in lying, so I just admitted I felt she upstaged me at my wedding. She laughed and said, "You can't upstage a bride." I asked if I could wear white to her wedding then, and she shrugged and said, "If you think it'll help." She then apologized if I felt her outfit was inappropriate. My in-laws moved the conversation on, and we went on with dinner. When we got home, my husband blew up on me, saying I embarrassed him by being petty and jealous of Tiffany. He said he doesn't even like her, but even he knows she can't do anything about what she looks like or the clothes she can afford. And I made myself look bitter and childish, and him by association. I admit it wasn't my best moment. But I thought he would at least understand how I felt given that he heard everyone's comments that night. He's demanding I apologize to Tiffany and his parents, but I don't think I said anything that heinous. My husband had a serious injury weeks ago. He's bedridden and his family come to see him every day. Mother-in-law keeps drilling what I need to do to make my husband comfortable but does nothing to help. Just visits every day and sits around expecting to be fed and entertained. Sometimes Bil, his wife and kids join them and turn the house into a mess. Yesterday Mil, her husband and son came again. They checked on my husband, then went to sit in the living room for hours. I served them coffee and croissant. Hours later my husband threw up again, second time. I had to take care of changing his clothes and cleaning the sheets to avoid infections. I was exhausted. I came downstairs and mother-in-law looked at me and asked, "Hey, where's our dinner?" I was shocked that after seeing me go up and downstairs many times and cleaning and bringing new sheets and running the washing machine that she'd expect me to prepare dinner. I'd already eaten a sandwich at 6 and yogurt. I have problems with my stomach and stress, and pregnancy made it worse. I'm 4 months in. I pointed at the kitchen and told her to help herself out. She gave me a look, then said she didn't expect me to ask her to cook dinner at my house. I said I didn't expect her to ask me to cook dinner while I'm taking care of her son. She started arguing about the way I spoke about my husband, saying as his partner. This is the least I could do, and called me unhinged for throwing in her face that I'm helping my husband. She got her husband involved, asking what his thoughts were on me making guests go hungry and forcing them to cook themselves, when this supposed to be my duty as a host homeowner. Father-in-law said they could order food and call it a day, and yelled at my younger brother-in-law to stop playing on his phone and order food, But mother-in-law got mad and lashed out, criticizing me, saying I wasn't up to the challenge of taking care of my home and my guests like an adult. I lost it on her and told them to leave since she kept yelling, disrupting my husband's sleep. She left after saying she felt sorry for her son and grandbaby with an aggressive wife and a mother like me. She told everyone, and my older brother-in-law said he understood I'd a lot on my plate, but lectured me about how I should have respect for his mom, who was a guest, repeatedly saying if that was his wife she wouldn't have acted this way, and that I shouldn't use taking care of my husband against them. He asked me to apologize, but I didn't.